All right, welcome. So I'd like to teach a class for equestrians today, especially because I'm on a horse farm right now, and I was really inspired by seeing riders, and I've had experience riding myself, so I know a little bit about what you need to be able to be successful riding a horse and balancing your body. But this practice is good for anybody, especially if you have tight hip flexors or you're working on core strength and just postural strength as well. So join me on your mat on your back with your knees bent. And you're going to bring your feet about hips width apart. You're going to bring your the palms or the heels of your hands on your hip bones here. And I just want you to take a moment to check in with your spine on the mat and make sure you've got the natural curves of your spine. So as you settle into your breath here, nice easy breathing, make sure that you have a little bit of space under your low back and that you feel the ribs drop down heavy and wide. So you feel the back ribs spread wide and heavy on the mat. Take a full breath in here. And without moving your spine, exhale and just feel the abdominal muscles hug in towards the spine. So it's not a belly button to spine pull. It's just a wrapping around 360 through the core, like you're hugging your spine. Do that again. So as you inhale, you're going to open and relax your abdominals. And as you exhale, you think of wrapping the spine with the muscles of your trunk. Nice. Now we're going to try to maintain that stability. And the next time we exhale and hug the spine, I want us to pick one leg and then the other up to a tabletop position. And right now you can let your arms lengthen down by your sides. Now can you still feel the back ribs wide on the mat? Can you still feel your lumbar curve? So now you're having to work harder to support the weight of your legs, right? Feeling the heavy weight. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, you're going to flex your right foot and push long and away from you as if you were pushing your foot into the stirrups, right? You want your heels to dig down. Inhale, bend your knee over your hip. We're going to try the other side. Flex your foot like you're pushing something away from you, like you're driving your leg down into that horse stirrup, and then inhale, bend. So there's a couple different ways, right, postures for sitting in your saddle here. Some people will make their spine more neutral. Some people will have a little bit of a tucked pelvis, especially if you're into dressage. Now, keep going here with these leg stretches. As you exhale, you're hugging your spine. You're pressing through your heel. Think of elongating the back of the leg and bend in. And so for this one, we're really working on stabilizing neutral. We're going to do a few more, and we're going to reach the opposite arm up and away from us or behind us, and then pull back in. Opposite arm reaches away. Can you keep your ribs steady on the mat? Keep going. Opposite arm reaches as the heel stretches long and away. Can you keep your pelvis in neutral? Can you feel your ribs dropping? Most of you are going to have to work hard to maintain that alignment. Let's do one more time. Reach. And last one, reach. Beautiful. Now set your feet down. And now we're going to do a different pelvic position, right? So if you're used to sitting in the saddle with that tucked hip position, you're going to practice that now. So as you exhale, roll your pelvis under. Feel your low abdominals sink and scoop so that your low back flattens, right? So you have a little bit of a curve through that lower back. From here, we're going to see if we can pick up both legs and maintain that imprinted lower back. I'm going to cross one ankle on top of the other. As I inhale, I'm going to release my tailbone to neutral. So there's your neutral curve. As you exhale, squeeze your ankles together and curl the pelvis back underneath. As you inhale, lengthen your pelvis to neutral. So this is very small, but you should feel a lot more going on here. One way to think about this movement is that you're pulling your pubic bone towards your belly button. You're shortening the space from pubic bone to navel. Let's do a couple more. Let's do the other ankle on top. And release to neutral. We're really trying to find that deep imprint using the low abdominals, not by swinging the legs, right? Or squeezing the hip flexors too much. Really trying to get into the abdominals. 2 more like this. And last one. Beautiful. Set your feet back down. So those 2 exercises in neutral and in your imprint are really great for strengthening and supporting your low spine and pelvis. Now we take the feet wide on the mat. We lift our toes off the floor, off the ground. And then we're gonna pick our hips up to a hover. Try not to scoop your hips and roll. Try to just float straight up, just a little hover. So my tailbone is still stretching long and away from me. I'm gonna pivot on my heels as I bring my thigh bones out, externally rotating the legs, and then push with your butt muscles to lift your hips way up. Draw your knees together at the top. And then lower back to your hover. Do that again. Open external rotation, knees wide. Push your hips up using your glutes. Draw your legs together at the top. Feel that internal rotation and then lower back down. Do 3 more in this direction. I call these gyroscopic bridges. So just lifting the hips but adding this extra mobility work in the hip joints, especially the internal rotation. Making sure, or just noticing in your own body, if the internal rotation is a lot harder than the external, or maybe it's vice versa for you. Let's reverse it. So internal rotation as you lift your hips, open at the top and lower. Keep going in that direction a few more times. Feel the muscles of your hips really do the work. You'll feel a lot going on here, especially if you're working on getting as big of a range through the hips as you can. I'm really making sure my ribs are still integrated into my body. I'm not thrusting my ribs up. Let's do 1 more. And then set your body all the way down. Hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a little rock side to side. And then we're gonna flip over onto our side here. So I'm gonna come onto my elbow. If you need to roll up your mat and give yourself a little extra padding, go ahead and do that. My bottom leg is bent, my top leg is gonna stretch long. I'm gonna take my top arm to the ceiling and I'm gonna make sure my head and tailbone are long, right? I'm not slouched, I'm not twisted. I'm gonna pick up my hips. Take a breath here. And then I want you to lift the top leg straight up. So I'm reaching straight out to the side. Lower that foot down. Now see if you can lift your bottom knee off the floor. Doesn't have to be any sort of a pretty posture, but just see if you can pick it up. And then set it down lightly and lower the hips. Let's do that a few more times. So lift the hips using the side waist. Stabilize the spine as the leg lifts. Put it down. Bottom leg squeezes to the top leg. And down and release. Do it again. Lift from your side waist. Top leg goes up. Bottom leg squeezes up and down. Little faster. And a lift, lift, and lift, and down. We press up. Leg lift, bottom knee, and down. Let's do 3 more. Up. Stretch it up, and and down, trying not to collapse. Try not to like hurl your body into any of these movements. Find the support and the control. Last time, up and down. Swing it to the other side. So important to sort of get all of the muscles around the trunk strong, because you never know, especially if you're riding, there's a lot of jostling around, right? The ability to bring our body back to midline is so important. Press down through the elbow, lift your hips up, top leg goes up, bottom knee lifts and lower. So a couple more, a little slower here. Top leg, bottom knee, and lower, trying not to collapse there. Push away. Top leg, bottom leg, and down. A little faster. Up, up, lift, and down. And hips forward. Down and lift. Last time, up and down. Awesome. Come on to hands and knees. We're gonna step back to a plank, but before we step to plank, we're gonna make sure we're in our neutral spine. So typically in plank, we see one of two things. We see the butt a little too high in the air, or we feel the ribs drop towards the floor. We're collapsing in the shoulders, right? So to set yourself up on hands and knees, think about pressing the ground away from you. Shoulder blades are wide on the back. That's going to create stable shoulders. And then the ribs are drawn in and up. Step one leg back, really fire that leg up, get strong. And try not to change anything else as you step the other leg back. And we're squeezing our legs together here. Now, once you've got that long line of energy, think of lengthening your chest forward ever so slightly. Keep your glutes strong, keep your legs strong. So if someone came over and sat on the back of your legs, you could hold them up. Make sure you're not sagging. It's really important. You could do this in front of a mirror if you really want to kind of see what's happening in your body. We'll take one more breath here. Lower one knee, other knee, and then sit back. Just take a little rest in child's pose for a moment before we move on. Now the next thing we do is going to be on our knees. So if you want to roll up the front edge of your mat again and put your knees on it, go ahead and do that. This is called the thigh stretch. So this is from the Pilates methodology. You can have your feet flat on the ground, or you can tuck your toes under. You choose, or maybe you want to try both, but you're going to stretch your arms forward, and we're going to make fists here. So we've got sort of an energetic hold in the arms. We're going to tuck our tailbone under slightly so we feel our glutes engage. And then from our knee joints, we're going to hinge back, 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 and then pull yourself up right on top of your knees again. So the idea here, everybody, is to keep our knees, hips, and shoulders and our head in one long line. We're not going to do a ton of these, but I really want you to make sure the tendency here is to break the spine and release the abdominals. So make sure you have your neutral line. The relationship of the shoulders, the ribs, and the pelvis stays the same, stays constant. And yes, you will feel a stretch in your thighs, some work in your thighs. We've got one more to go. Keep your butt muscles active. Really nice. Go ahead and shake it off. Take your hands behind your head now. Your elbows are wide. Same idea, keeping your shoulders and your ribs and your hips stacked on top of each other, but we're gonna take a kind of like a squat from your knees. So drop back and stand back up on your knees. Just like you would for a squat. Hip creases back and stand up. Hinging at the hips, just like a door hinge. We've got a couple more like that. Be very, very aware if you're losing your neutral spine when you stand up. And I'm really opening the front of my hips here, you guys. So use your glutes right at the top of that lift there to open the front of the hips completely. Hinging back and stand. Now twist to one side. So I'm twisting from my ribs and I'm going to do the same movement in a twist. I go back, I go up, rotate the other side. I sit back in that twist, up and rotate. And rotate again. One more time. See if you can feel your twisting muscles do the work here. Beautiful. Unroll your mat. Step your left foot forward. Bring your hands to your hips and tuck your pelvis under. Tuck your pelvis under. So again, lengthening the low back. This is going to take you into a very luscious hip flexor stretch, which if you're an equestrian, you are probably tight in your hip flexors. Guide with your right glute here to send the hips forward. Feel into that stretch and let's make sure our breathing is smooth and easy. Option to tuck the back toe under. That will give you a different sensation and a different stretch in the hip flexor. So make sure you try that out. If you need to pad your knee with a towel, do it. And now I'm going to take my right arm up and I'm going to take a little side bend to the left. So for many of you, that will increase the stretch. It might even get into your psoas muscle, which can also be tight if you're a rider. Take one more breath. Come back up to center. Place your hands down on the ground as you switch to the other side. So notice I could go way low in this stretch, but the reason I'm not going so low is because I'm starting with a tucked pelvis. So draw up the front of the pelvis, tailbone is long. Keep that, and then send your hips forward. Tuck your back toes under at some point along this stretch here, so you can feel the difference. And make sure your left glute is active, right? We're not passively sinking into the stretch. Take your left arm up and over, add a side bend to the right. Feel your ribs soften down into your body. Big breath in, big breath out. And then find your way up to center. Let's step it back to a downward facing dog. So tuck both toes under. Make sure your hands are slightly out in front of your shoulders. Fingers are spread wide. Lift your hips up. And let's stretch the calves here for a moment. One heel down into the floor as the other knee bends. And all the while you're stretching your calves, can you make sure that your shoulders are wide across your back and set down away from the ears? And you're using the shoulders to help support this shape. You're not just passively sinking into your shoulder joints, right? Pushing the ground away. Let's try one more each side. Bend one knee, heel to the floor. And last time, switch. Take your feet a little wider, maybe even mats width apart, and walk your hands back to your feet. Just stretch your shoulder, or excuse me, your hamstrings for a moment here. Let your head relax. Maybe shake your head no and yes. Now keep your knees soft. Push your feet into the floor, just like you would in the stirrups as you roll up your spine, bone by bone. And we're gonna finish with a little bit of balance work. Now, when we take these concepts up to standing, we have to have even more body awareness because we don't have as much feedback without our spine laying on the floor. So the higher we get off the floor, the more we have to pay attention. We're gonna take our hands behind our head like we did earlier on our knees, and we're gonna do the same exact movement. So take a squat back, hip hinge, and just make sure your knees are pointing over the toes here. Now I want you to stand up and lift one knee. And just take a moment to find your balance. Can you straighten your standing leg all the way? That's gonna help you find neutral pelvis. And then notice if your ribs are not on top of your pelvis. Can you bring your rib cage right on top of the pelvic bowl? And then back down into your squat. So 2 feet. Now stand up and try the other leg. Balance. I'm pushing my head gently into my hands here to help me feel head over top of shoulders, over top of ribs, over top of hips, over top of heel. So everything's in line. Let's go faster. Come down into your squat, come to one foot. Down into your squat, other foot. And down. And lift. So I like to breathe. Inhale to come down. Exhale to find the balance. Now if you want to challenge everybody, you're going to add a twist at the top. So I'm going to my 1 foot balance, and then I'm going to twist towards the lifted knee. Yes. Back to 2 feet. Stand, twist towards the lifted knee. A little harder on that side for me. Down, up, and twist. Can you straighten the standing leg all the way? That's super important. Down. Stand and rotate. Keep going. Rotate. Inhale down. Exhale, twist. Let's try one more each side. Remember to keep pushing your head gently into your hands. And then just stand up nice and tall. Shake it off. And then you're going to find your way down to a seat, and we're going to finish with 5 count breathing. Whether you're an equestrian who is really working with the energy of your horse, right? The horse can sense the state of your nervous system, it can sense your heartbeat, or you're just in a chaotic world and need a tool to help kind of center you and ground you, this is the practice. Nice, easy, upright spine. Close your eyes, feel your sit bones on the ground or whatever you're sitting on. Empty your next exhale all the way out. And then start to breathe in for the count of 5 through the nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Through the mouth, exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing out 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Through the nose, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, maybe putting a hand on your heart. Exhale. Letting the sternum, chest soften. Keep going. Inhale. Exhale. Breathing in. Breathing out. A few more rounds. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last time, breathing in. Breathing out. And just let your breath go back to its natural rhythm. Notice the state of your mind, if anything has shifted, the state of your body, if you're feeling different than when you began this practice. All right, thank you all so much for joining me for this equestrian practice. Have a great rest of your day.